Can I start?
Yes, always.
That was awesome. She is so wise. I was like listening to Yoda there for a second.
And everything she says, she could say the meanest thing and it sounds so nice. I
So
mean,
true.
you too. It's not fair. I want an accent. It's like
I
I've
mean,
never been bothered by office politics. It's like everything is just so beautiful. Yeah.
technically, with your broken voice right now, you do have an accent. So you
Oh,
you should capitalize on that with your like your cold
I'm so
voice.
sick. Can you please give me what I want?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You're terrible at your job. Arr. Yeah.
Welcome to the Leader Pulse podcast, the podcast for leaders revolutionizing the world of work. I'm Holly Tate, Chief Services Officer here at Leader. And on today's episode, you get to hear again from Marie Myers, who's the Chief Financial Officer at Hewlett Packard Enterprises. Today, she unpacks with us what it means to be disruptive as an executive and how you can do that in a way that drives change and results while also respecting your colleagues and honoring them. Make sure that you go to leader.com to learn more about Leader Academy, our manager training program. We have over 300 managers now in our Leader Academy community, and we can't wait for you to get to join us as we all work to become better leaders. Without further ado, here's today's episode with Marie Myers.
That is so true. And that's a really good segue into something that I've heard you say before, which is that CFOs need to be knowledgeable about all aspects of the business, and that we should be sharing our unique insights with the board, not just the financials. And so I'm curious, for those of us, like, that sounds great. Like, I love the idea of that. As any executive, that we have a broad understanding about what's happening across the business. But one thing that I often hear from newer executives, or especially mid-level managers that are wanting to grow into an executive role, is, how do I do that, but with balancing what I've been told, which is stay in your lane, or focus on what's right in front of you today. Let the executive team worry about that. So what advice would you give for that leader who agrees with you and wants to have that broad insight and speak into other parts of the company, but doesn't feel like they have maybe the authority or the insight in order to do that?
Yeah. So first of all, I like to speak as a CFO as a strategic business partner. They should be the partner to the business on multiple fronts. Everything from ensuring you make your numbers through to, as we discussed earlier, capital allocation and helping them kind of navigate what is typically pretty choppy waters out there. So I really think about a CFO in that regard. And when I think about that, that means that a CFO needs to have a broad set of experiences. One way to develop what I call enterprise leadership or enterprise acumen is by frankly doing different jobs. And if I look back at my own career, I've done a lot of different things, and they haven't always been pure finance. In fact, my first job in corporate America, I was a product manager of a very important product for the company. And so it helped me to understand how that process works. I work very closely with engineers. I then spent, probably the better part of my career in finance, and then the later part of my career running, being involved in IT transformation, digital transformation, leading IT departments, cybersecurity. And then most recently, for the last few years, I've sat on a number of boards. So that experience set, gives me, I think, a really good wealth of enterprise knowledge. And, therefore, when I sort of groom CFOs, I really encourage them to go out and get broad experiences. And there's numerous ways to get those experiences. It can be inside the company you're working for. It could be taking a board seat somewhere else where you get an outside in view. It could be by taking a rotation where you're at into a role that is not even in your normal sort of, could be moving out of finance and into the business or moving into marketing. I'm a big believer in those breadth roles really pay off in the long run. I believe life is the long game. It's not the short game. And so all those experiences just, prepare you for the sort of long term. In terms of not offending your business partners, I kind of look at that as more the how than the what. I think people generally appreciate enterprise views. One of the things that I think holds back organizations is complacency and being siloed in your decision making, because it just doesn't benefit customers, shareholders, stakeholders. I think the way to think about life is go back and think about who matters in terms of what you do. What matters are the employees of the company, the customers you serve, and the shareholders who take a bet on you. And if you use that perspective, it'll always guide you to do the right thing. I've never been bothered by corporate politics. One of the most important jobs I ever had in my career. In fact, I was a junior person. I was an IC, individual contributor. And I remember working on an initiative that was really disruptive. And it was that initiative about 25 years ago that gave me the sort of know-how on how to navigate, the subject you just brought up. It's not easy. Sometimes people get offended, but always go back and think about what is the right thing to do. What would a customer want you to do? What would an employee want you to do? And what would a shareholder want you to do? And you can tick off the box and it's yes, it's the right thing to do.
The first thing that jumped out to me, and maybe it's because I feel like I'm living this right now, is she said, life is the long game, not the short game. Holly, in the last week, I've had 2 people say their goal in life is to become a CEO, which means that, and it literally in the last week. And they said, well, if I have to be a CEO in 10 years, that means in 8 years, I need to be another C-suite person. Then in 6 years, I need to be a VP. And then in 4 years, I need to be a director, which means I've got to start managing people now. And Marie doesn't agree with you. That's your career is a winding road, not a straight line. And I think thinking about life as a long game, and how did you put it? Like gathering experiences and a breadth of experiences is more important than like, how do you, they're like planning out something that you can't plan. Life doesn't work that way.
Yeah, it's like reverse engineering your career. You just can't do it.
You can't do it.
Yeah.
You can't do it.
We have our internal leadership development track is called Leader U here at Leader. And I love getting to do one-on-ones with the team that is in Leader U. But the question that I always get, I think every single one that I've done, they say, your career models what I would like for mine to look like. How did you get there? How did you make the jump from IC to, director to VP to SVP to C-suite? And the answer is like, I don't know. Like, I mean, it's like I didn't set out to say I'm going to be director and then VP and then SVP and then C-suite. I mean, sure, as opportunities came, like I said, oh, actually would like my title to be this versus that. But that was not a map that I had drawn out 13 years ago.
And actually, I know your story well enough to say this because I know my story is the same. If you were to actually draw exactly what happened on LinkedIn, it did not look like that. I've been demoted. I've been what's it called when I've done lateral moves. I've done sideways, more backwards moves. I've been laid off. I've been like it. Yeah. LinkedIn doesn't LinkedIn's it's not encouraging you to say, don't forget to put in the part where you got demoted. Like it's so it's a false pretense. It's like social media. It's the best version of the truth.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a curated resume, basically.
Yeah. And I love that she's like, I was a product manager. No one in their right mind who asks a CFO, how do I become a CFO, is going to say, you should start in product management.
Yeah.
So it's just not how life works.
Yeah.
Life's a long game. I love that. That was so wise.
Well, and I think that's how she's been able to, I feel like it would be impossible to be truly innovative without all of the experience that she's had. Like if she had just studied finance, gone, become an accountant at one of the big 5,
yep.
Et cetera, and just had a career in finance, she would be your typical CFO and wouldn't be able to drive the innovation that HP is as a global organization. So
I think it's so good, and never discount the breadth. I like what she talked about, just knowing more different parts of the business too. There's a saying out there, VP or vice president, VP of one thing, VP of anything. In other words, once you've gained the knowledge on how to lead people in one discipline, learn how to do it in other disciplines. And so much of the establishing process and putting in hiring practices and all of that translates completely. But now you're gaining industry knowledge and technical knowledge in different departments, which just makes you more dangerous in a good way.
Yeah, so true. She reminded me of, I was talking to an executive at an organization, they're a nonprofit, earlier this week, and their new like CEO is about to start early next year. And so they don't want to make any changes until this person starts. And so they are like, we don't know what changes he's going to bring. And so we just don't want to make any new decisions. I'm like, the incoming leader, unless they're a narcissist, which
Right.
could be the case, but let's hope not. Unless they're a narcissist, I guarantee you that new CEO is looking for his deputies or her deputies to say, hey, here's what you need to know about the organization. I made this decision in December because I am looking for the following outcomes. So here's the plan and here's the ROI that I'm looking for. Let me know if you have a problem. That is what executive leaders are looking for. But what happens is I feel like typically people default to the opposite,
Mhm.
which is like, I'm not going to say anything until I get asked. I don't want to rock the boat. But I'll speak for myself, and then most executives that I know are frustrated because that second
Yes.
layer, that's the word I'm looking for, second layer of leadership is not leading up. We don't want to
Yes.
be the ones to tell you exactly what we want you to do. We want you to come to us. So why do you think, what is that dance? Like, why do you think
Well,
that?
first, let me just agree. Speaking on behalf of CEOs, nothing is more exhausting than feeling like all decisions have to come to you. Uh,
Yeah.
your job is by nature, like the hardest decisions are already going to land on your lap. And so don't force your executive into decision fatigue by just putting everything in a holding pattern and then putting the burden on their shoulders to fix the 3 months of apathy that you've caused by not doing anything. Like, that would be the worst incoming feeling to have as a new CEO joining a team, being like, we haven't done anything for the last few months because we were waiting on you. So now can you go and fix the last 3 months and the next 2 years, please? I would be, and I would be like, I don't think you're the right person because I want you running fast.
Yes.
So then to answer your question, Holly, it's got to be fear of consequences of what if I make the wrong decision? And so you just, all this anxiety gets bottled up into, I like the air cover of knowing ultimately someone else stamped this, so it's not on me if it goes wrong. And
Yes.
and that is not a healthy way to lead either.
I think you nailed it. That makes a lot of sense. That it's like, well, I don't want it to be my fault, so I'm going to blame it on the incoming person and the decisions that they make.
Yep.
They can be the scapegoat if something goes wrong.
Yep.
Because that's what she said. I've never met a person, when I asked her the challenging question of, I've heard you say, have an enterprise mindset, learn about the business, and bring insights about the business. But why are people so scared? And she says, I've never met an executive that doesn't appreciate enterprise
Yep.
mindset. And so I just want to encourage all of us to, and when I think about it, in my little tiny world over here, I started doing it naively, but that is kind of how I got where I am. I was like, I remember my first when the executive team formed at my former company, and I was like in my early 20s, and I saw that they were going to breakfast, and then they came back from breakfast, and I was like, I should probably be in that meeting because they're making decisions and I'm over marketing and I have to go like execute the things, so I should probably understand the context. So can I be in that meeting? I didn't realize I was asking to it was literally a naive question, just wanting to have a seat at the table, not to fill my resume, but to do my job better.
Yeah,
And so yeah, I just want to encourage all of us to have that enterprise mindset. I think that's really powerful.
I totally agree. And you don't have a tiny world. You're making a huge impact.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so this idea of should I share my opinion? Am I allowed to have an opinion? I've got strong opinions on this. So do you mind
Okay.
if I share a quick little story?
I would love to hear your story.
So in my last company, I was a director of sales, and the total team size was about 100. I was responsible for about 30 or 40 people. It was kind of split down the middle. And on the other side of the fence, it was a dumpster fire. Culture was falling apart. The leadership was not strong. Staff was certainly becoming less and less engaged, and it was gossipy and negative and just dripping into toxicity. It was not a good place. One afternoon, the CEO asked me to run down to his office, and he handed me a whiteboard marker and said, hey, hypothetically, Matt, if you were in charge, what would you do? If I didn't have opinions, if I hadn't have had that enterprise mindset, if I hadn't have actively been thinking, even if I wasn't expecting this meeting and I didn't plan for this meeting, frankly, I don't even know if I wanted this meeting, but I had constantly been thinking about how do we make the team better. Within 5 minutes, I had 20 ideas on the whiteboard. And I wrote them all down. And then lo and behold, if you've heard the story before, the next morning, Chris says, hey, the other guy's out, you're in, you're now in charge of the entire team. Go and execute on that list of ideas. So there's
Yeah.
kind of two morals of the story. Number one, if you're going to speak up, be ready for the consequences of maybe you'll be in charge. But number two, have opinions and share your opinions,
Mhm.
especially, and I think this is the part that Marie said that was so spot on. It's the how more than the what. If the how is, and the how you share it is tied to, I want the team to succeed. I want the shareholders to succeed. I want our customers to succeed. If you're sharing your opinions not for the betterment of yourself and your career, and it's better for the team, share it all day long. You should have opinions. And hey, by the way, just because you get promoted and get a fancy title, people don't start suddenly listening to your opinions for the first time. Your opinions have merit regardless of how many letters you have behind your name. So my
Yes.
strong encouragement to everybody is have strong opinions, pay attention to what's happening everywhere in your immediate vicinity, and share your opinions if it's for the betterment of the team. Sorry
Yeah.
for the sidetrack, Holly, but like I couldn't be more opinionated on having opinions.
It's so true. And that's one of my favorite stories. And Chris would never have brought you into that room had he not known that you had opinions. So like
Right.
you were sharing them proactively, and then he knew who could help me fix this. Let me see what Matt thinks. And, brought you into that. And then you got that incredible opportunity. And
Yeah.
then she gave us a framework for evaluating, I think, if we should share them, which was, what would your customer want you to do? What would your employees want you to do? And what would your shareholders want you to do? And
Oh,
if the
good.
answer to all of those three is yes, or like, affirmative towards your idea, go share them, because I
Go
guarantee
share them.
your supervisor and your executive team wants to hear it.
You have context that the people above you in your organization do not have, and they
Mhm.
will not have it, especially if it's crucial to the success of the team, unless you share it.
So good. Okay, so some actionable insights before we wrap. First of all, go get as many different experiences as you can, because that is how you can be innovative.
Play the long game.
Yeah, play the long game. That's a better way to say it. The second one is adopt an enterprise mindset. And then the third one is share those opinions.
Yes.
So really, really good encouragement from Marie today.
So good.
Thanks for listening to today's episode with Marie Myers, Chief Financial Officer at Hewlett Packard Enterprises. Make sure you go to leader.com/academy. That's leader.com/academy to learn more about our manager training program. You can also go to leader.com to sign up for the Leader Pulse newsletter that we send out every Thursday with the latest insights from us here at Leader. And with that, we'll see you next time on the Leader Pulse podcast.